Welcome to the Series of Opinion podcast, episode 1. I'm KJ. I'm a 4th year criminology student. I love TV and books and music and just about honestly everything. So I've been wanting to make a podcast for a long time and we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm Faith. I'm an artist. I'm TV obsessed. I'm going into my 2nd year of graphic design. I'm totally obsessed with Disney, true crime. I love Grey's and This Is Us. And my best friend is my pug. So...
My name's Moira. I'm a musical and superhero enthusiast. That's pretty much my entire life. I spend a lot of my time reading, and I'm a history major going into my 2nd year.
This is our episode, What Makes a Good, ... And we're going to be talking about different types of media and what we think makes each one good.
Yeah, all our favorite things.
Yeah, exactly. And we love a lot of things, so hopefully this episode will be a reasonable amount of time.
Full disclosure, we already tried to record this and it took us 2 hours. So.
Yes, we had a technical issue and we had to have a dress rehearsal.
Yes,
exactly.
As our good friend Jillian Pensavali from True Crime Obsessed. I'm just kidding. None of us know her personally.
I wish. I literally wish.
Yeah, we wish. If Patrick and Jillian ever hear this, just
oh my God,
you guys know that we love you.
She's our Rabia.
It's our goal to meet you guys at a podcast event in the future when those kind of things can happen.
Someday. Oh my gosh. Yeah, someday.
So we're going to start by talking about TV. We're going to start by talking about dramas.
Awesome. Love it. Do you want to start us off?
Sure, I will definitely start us off. For me, a good drama is, like, consistent to character writing. And then, like, with that consistent to character writing, like, anytime there's something out of character, it's, like, explained to us.
Right.
So, like, if someone does something that, like, just doesn't make sense, then it's explained. I think one show that really does this actually really well is Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When someone does something that's super weird or out of character, like, we find out later that there's, like, an A motivation, or that one of the girls has a drug addiction problem that we didn't know about, or something. Like, there's an explanation, or we find out that, Toby's still alive when we thought he was dead, and that's why Spencer is being a fucking psycho.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's okay if you do something really out of character, as long as it's explained, or
it has to make sense.
To character. There has to be a reason if you're gonna do something that's just, like, out of the norm for that person.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's a good point.
Somebody else?
Well, for dramas, I think that the two big things are the writing and the acting for me. That they both go, like, hand in hand. If you have both of those things, like, you can't go wrong. Those two things, for me, make it, like, a great quality drama and something I can really, like, get into and get obsessed with. And one example that I have for a great drama that I've been watching recently is Money Heist on Netflix. You guys have got to watch that.
I've heard nothing but good things about Money Heist.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, obviously, I have a couple things that I could change, but it's so good, and you guys have got to watch it.
All right, and Moira?
I think the most important thing for me is, like, believable shock value, because you have to keep the pace going and keep it dramatic, but I want the craziness to be something that I could visualize happening in real life, because if it gets too out there, then it's not believable, but it makes it entertaining if you have that shock value constantly. And with Grey's, they do it fairly well, where they keep it possible that it might happen in some random circumstance, but you feel that it's still being kept together, and, like, you see those characters going through that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's a reason Grey's Anatomy has lasted for 17 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
They are really good at what they do.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, when you think back, like, it's so crazy when you think of all the things that the characters have been through. Like, the likelihood of all that stuff happening is, like, 0 of all that stuff happening to one or a few people. But it's still, like, so believable.
Yeah, you don't feel that way when you're, like, actually, like, in the moment watching it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're going to move on to sitcoms.
Okay, I can start us off for this if you like. For sitcoms, for me, I want the jokes to be like witty or clever. I don't want them to be like overdone or like stale, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And another important thing for a good sitcom is that they punch up, not down. I don't want, the fat woman to be the butt of the joke all the time. I don't want like the quote unquote like dumb blonde to always be the person that they're making fun of. Like you have to like work harder than that, I think. I loved That's So Raven when I was growing up. Like that's probably my favorite sitcom of all time. They always were so inclusive with everything, and she's such a like relatable and I don't know, way ahead of her time. Like such a diverse show, I think, and funny.
Yeah, that's good. Moira, do you want to take the next?
I agree with Faith, especially with the like real humor. Like I don't want it to be something so easy that anyone can come up with that humor, because I'm not a funny person, but like if I can tell where you're going with this joke, it's not, you didn't try hard enough. Like I want it to be fun and good, and I don't like a lot of like swearing humor or anything like that. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine does that really well, especially for the first few seasons. They're great with the comedy and inclusivity of everyone, and they don't hate on anyone else in order to make that comedy good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I'd say Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one of the best sitcoms that's like currently on the air. It's amazing. And yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, obviously if you're gonna watch some of those older sitcoms, I really like Boy Meets World from the 90s, or like it's Disney reboot in the 2010s. I think something that's kind of good about sitcoms is like they can cover some serious topics, and because their whole premise is being funny, they can cover serious topics in a way that isn't so uncomfortable. For sure. Not to use too many examples. I'm already breaking my own rule. I put a rule after our first recording that we can only have so many examples, but I'm gonna break that rule, and I'd say I've been watching Hannah Montana for the first time.
For the first time?
Yep.
Oh my god!
I didn't have Disney Channel as a kid. So I'm watching Hannah Montana on Disney Plus, and like they've covered some really great issues with like Miley and Miley with anybody, but like Miley and Lily, have a lot of issues as best friends, And I'd say Girl Meets World, also another Disney one, did a lot of the same thing. Like they covered some really serious topics in Girl Meets World. I think they could have done more if they'd had more than 3 seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that show was really headed in the same direction. They covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time in a way that was really relatable and like fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's something nice from sitcoms. And then what you guys said about not punching down, like it's 2020. We don't need to be punching down on anyone for the sake of humor. Like it's not funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just not where our society is anymore. You need to work harder.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're gonna talk about multi-generational family dramas now.
Love it. Super.
That was a lot of words for our listeners. But a multi-generational family drama is a family drama that covers one family over, several generations, all living or interacting closely together.
Yeah, for sure. Moira, do you want to start?
Oh my goodness. I think I want the characters to have their own separate personalities, and I think that's really important, but also you need to consistently show how their lives are intertwining and how their existence is affecting the other person and changes them as people as the show goes on. One of my favorites is actually One Day at a Time, the remake that came out in 2017. That show I could watch over and over and over again. It's such a good example of that. There's 2 children and a single mom and her mother living in like an apartment, and I really like how they present that lifestyle.
Yeah, awesome. I've never heard of that one. I'll definitely have to try it.
Yeah, that sounds like something we would love. So great. All right, I'll take the next. So
sure.
For me, multi-generational family dramas, a big thing is even with the diverse, it's very similar to Moira's, even with each character's own diverse personalities, I think to a certain extent, everyone in the family has to be somewhat on the same page with some value. If one of the siblings, for example, I'm just gonna use a made up example, but like if one sibling in the family like comes out as like gay, then I don't want one of the other siblings to be like a super right wing, like you're going to hell.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see everyone, at least have some core values in common.
Yeah, like you can tell they were raised in the same house with the same parents kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this sibling had one set of parents and this sibling had the other set of parents. Unless that's what happened, in which case you do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And Faith?
Okay, so for multi-gen dramas, I think that for me a big thing is like pacing. I don't want to feel like I'm being whipped around and like, what is this person doing again? And like, why should I care? Why are they here? And who's that person? Like, it has to be well thought out and not too fast, and then also obviously not too slow where it gets boring. And then also like a little bit like what you guys were talking about, like character consistency, where it's, people and characters make the same like decisions that make sense for them as characters, and not just, make random decisions that wouldn't make sense for who they actually are as characters. Obviously This Is Us is like the standard for this kind of drama. So well written, and I think that's why people talk about, always crying during This Is Us, is because it's just so well done and so well, the characters are so great that you just can't help but empathize with them.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a full episode on This Is Us.
Definitely.
There's just, something about that show that's just chef's kiss.
Yes.
Alright, so we're going to talk about procedurals now.
Okay, super. You want to get us started on that?
Yes, I love procedurals. I love medical procedurals. I love, like, police procedurals, court procedurals. I watch a lot of them.
Yes,
I might not watch them on the same level, but, like, I watch Grey's Anatomy and Bones, and, I mean, the like, crime-related ones are a little hard for me to watch sometimes, because, like I mentioned, I'm a fourth-year criminology major, so I have a intimate knowledge on how the criminal justice system actually functions, and like I've taken a class on forensic science and stuff like that. Like I've just taken a lot of classes to know that like science doesn't really work that way sometimes. But I think the important thing for procedurals is that they get an expert in there. A great example of this is Grey's Anatomy. They have the infamous Boki. The real-life scrub nurse that is in all of the surgery scenes. She's a real-life scrub nurse. She works on the set to make the surgery scenes look more realistic. She's a beloved character, even though she never speaks, and I think that her expertise really helps make those surgery scenes. I mean, I don't know anything about surgery, so it probably wouldn't look bad if they looked bad, but, like, it's just nice to know that they care enough to call in an expert when it's needed.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing for me as well. It's just having someone talk about it and know what they're doing to make it believable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for me, that's another thing I was going to say was to be realistic. Like, for me, like watching CSI, for example, part of you is like, it's not the best for the whole, realistic part of it, because of course they can't, do on their computer, and the fuzzy CTV like footage is just all of a sudden clear. Even though it looks,
there's a reason we aren't solving crimes in 45 minutes.
Exactly. Like they're on VHS tapes that they saved for like 20 minutes and then tape over top, and they look like they were filmed on a potato. But CSI though, I love because they have clever endings, and I can follow along with what they're doing and the thought process they're taking, but not terribly often can I actually like guess who did it or who is the criminal, or where they're going with it. Yeah, so I think that's really important.
Especially with those crime ones, that's really important. Is like getting you to the end in a way that it will make sense when you look back and you know the answer. You're like, oh yeah, this was a clue and that was a clue, but not in a way where you can figure it out before it's supposed to be revealed.
Exactly.
And I think the episodes of Grey's Anatomy where they have a medical mystery, they do a lot of that as well.
Yes, they do.
I think that's an important part. Anytime where there's supposed to be a reveal at some point, I think you need to be careful how you're getting up to that.
Yeah, be really purposeful with it, for sure.
Alright, so we're going to talk about docudramas next.
Okay.
I think I'm the only person that watches a lot of these, but
yeah, I would say so.
I think that they're really great. So if you don't know a docudrama, they are kind of historical fiction where they take a real life event and real accounts and they fictionalize it a bit for TV. There's Chernobyl on HBO was a really big one in the last couple of years. Unspeakable on CBC was another one that I really enjoyed, and they are really good. They really help put you in the moment in a way I think like just someone sitting down to camera with an interview or some bad reenactments just can't do. You really get immersed in the story in the time, especially like both of those shows I just mentioned. Events in them take place long before I was even born, so I don't have any personal experience with them, and I think that is really helpful in understanding and really feeling the emotions of something that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like, I have the notes of, they have to respect the actual story if it is, like, because some are loosely based, where some are, like, actually about the story, so they have to respect the real people, and, of course, like, good acting also helps. And when I was researching, like, examples to see if I, in fact, watched more than I thought I did, which I don't, really, The Blind Side was a good one. It was one that I watched, like, when I was, like, young-ish. Like, it was one of the first movies that wasn't Disney-based that I watched. So I remember that was a really good one that I liked.
I think I'd really love to do an episode on either one of those two that I mentioned. There's some really good stuff in there.
Yes, definitely. They're very impactful, for sure.
And just for anyone that is going to go and watch Chernobyl, I also recommend there's a companion podcast where you listen to the episode of the podcast after you watch the episode on HBO. They correspond with each other and they tell you some stuff that they either cut or things that they were doing or like why they made certain like decisions with casting or directing or how they told the story. It's really good. Highly recommend.
Nice. That's super, super good.
It was really nice to see that and just like see how the process was. All right, and so we're going to talk about teen dramas. We're going to have a whole episode on teen dramas because we love them.
Of course.
Can't
get enough.
A whole separate kind of area of drama. But
yes, they're their own thing for sure.
Yeah, and they're really, I feel like they're really seen that way in television.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which can be good and can also be bad. Yeah.
So teen dramas are dramas that are specifically targeted for 14 to 18-year-olds. That's their target audience, which is a huge part of the economic wheel.
Yeah,
teens really do honestly run the economy, and anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong.
Yeah, all that expendable income. Yeah.
So I would say for me the most important thing that makes a teen drama good is that characters come off in a way that is actually relatable to real teens. And I think or at least is appealing to teens. So I'm going to use two different examples here. So for somewhat relatable to teens, I think that actually Pretty Little Liars does a good job. I know they go to a lot more parties than any, like, fancy parties than any, like, normal teenager. But I think aside from the fact that they're being stalked and their best friend got murdered or whatever, like, their actual, like, their day-to-day lives feel really, like, really real. I mean, they have crises of identity and they have, like, pressure put on them by their parents to do well in school and, like, they're dealing with social media and texting in a way that, like, teens really do have to deal with, and I think that feels good. And then I think in a way that, like, in a totally different direction, like, teen dramas that just, like, have teens that are, like, not relatable to teens real lives, but are, like, interesting to teens. I'd say, like, Gossip Girl was a really good one. Like...
Yes, I really like Gossip
No one can relate to anyone that was living on the Upper East Side. Not a single person could relate to that. I don't think teens that live on the Upper East Side even live like that.
No.
But like there was something very intriguing about it. Like you wanted to know that experience and experience it with the characters.
Yeah, so true.
And I just think like you have to. Teen dramas, I think sometimes like they're written by adults, and I think adults forget sometimes what teens are like. Yeah. So I think a good teen drama remembers what teens either like or what teens are like.
Yeah, like some teen dramas you can really tell it's too obvious that they were written by adults.
Yeah, no one in the writer's room has been a teenager in too long.
Exactly. I would say for me also, as super, super parallel to your answer, where it has to be like fairly relatable characters for teens anyways. Like, of course, there's a target market, so, you know, like well-written, well-rounded teen characters, and of course, like, realistic enough. Like, I also super love Pretty Little Liars for this. They still have to, you know, have book reports. They still have to take the SATs. They, of course, deal with texting and, like, boys and drama in their friend group. Like, they stay true to them being actual teens, even though, you know, they're in this unlikely scenario of being stalked, and of course they like go to crazy fancy parties sometimes and dress up in big gowns, but for the most part, it's the characters themselves are realistic enough that I think it makes it a good teen drama.
All right, and Moira?
For me, a lot of it is the character, like the actor playing the character, needs to be close in age to that. I know it doesn't happen a lot in teen dramas, but I find it more believable when they at least remember how to act like a teenager or are closer in age to teenager. Like, for example, Cole Sprouse, who I love so much in Riverdale, I watched him 10 years ago be a teenager in Sweet Life on Deck and that. So it's very difficult to watch him be a teenager when he's in his late 20s and still supposed to be that same age.
Yeah,
to further horrify both of you, I did not watch Sweet Life because, again, I did not have Disney Channel. So for me, this is my first real time spent with Cole Sprouse.
Which would definitely make it different.
So I don't have that same experience. I think Cole Sprouse does okay as a teenager, but I agree. I would like to see more young people cast as young people.
For sure.
In the near future, we are looking into, in the next couple of years, getting a Percy Jackson series on Disney Plus. It's in production at the moment.
That would be great.
Very, very early production at the moment, and so they haven't announced any casting. And since they are planning to do one book per season right now, that's the most recent plans, I would like to see them cast someone very young.
Yeah.
Because the characters start 12 in the first book, and they end up 16 in the last book. So I'd like to see them cast someone on the young side, so that by the time we get 5 years in, they've only aged like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
I think
they don't go like 25 to 30. Yeah.
I'd like to see some young people.
Yeah.
Being cast there, and I think more teen dramas. I'd like to see younger actors. I know it can be harder to work with younger actors. They might not be as polished, but I think Riverdale had a lot of success with casting some first-time actors. Like, this is Camila Mendes and Lily Reinhart's first real big roles.
Right.
And I think that they've been phenomenal. So I think casting people that haven't acted before or who were, like, child actors and now are, like, in their early teens, I think casting them as teenagers is totally fine. And we should be doing
casting is a big part of teen dramas as well.
I think it really makes them more relatable when they look like they're teenagers.
Yes, definitely. Like, Sasha Peterson on, again, Pretty Little Liars, when she only like 12 or 13 when they cast her.
Yeah, and all the other girls were much older than her. They didn't look older, which I think is great. Pretty Little Liars did a good job at making all the girls look young that weren't. But they did cast one girl that was actually young.
Yes, definitely.
And it was good. I mean, they did a good job. All right, so we are going to move on because we need to keep this podcast episode moving. So we're going to talk about books a little bit. And we're going to talk first about mysteries. I don't know if you guys read a lot of like mystery or thriller books.
Well, as I've grown up, I've gotten out of reading actual books, but I am really into audiobooks.
Myself as well.
And my favorite genre of audiobooks, and I guess like books obviously, are mystery and thriller. For me, like, the details of them have to be really good. Like, they have to be well thought out from everything that you tell me has to be thought out. And of course have a really great ending or twist, just like, you know, mystery in TV shows. I want to be able to possibly like I can see why and how they got there and how that could be the ending or the twist, but I don't want to have gotten there, you know?
Yeah.
And another really good example of this is Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. That is a really good one because you go through this whole book and she's, what's the word when someone's afraid to go outside? Is it agoraphobia? I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. Sorry if that's wrong. But she's like the only character besides like 2 or 3 others that, you know, her neighbors that come to visit occasionally. So as the story goes on, you know, she has a pill addiction and you as the viewer or the reader, not viewer, start to like doubt her experiences because she's so unsure of herself. Okay. So it ends up being a really good book.
Moira, have you read many mysteries?
I actually have not read many mystery books, so I don't really have an opinion on them. I'm intrigued to know more and like
we'll send you a reading list.
Yeah,
definitely.
I go through phases in what kind of books I'm reading. So I went through a mystery thrillers phase when I was probably like 13, 14, and then, you know, I was in the YA for a long time, and then I went to mystery thrillers back when I was like first getting my start in the true crime obsession that I perpetually live in.
Same.
And then I kind of moved away from it for a while, and it's still not a genre that I've really gotten super back into, but one book I did really want to plug is called Marker by Robin Cook. And like mystery, I own it in paperback, and I reread it fairly frequently. I'd say like once every year or two. And it's really different because it's not so much of a mystery, it's more of a thriller.
Okay.
We have an inside like narrator look into the perpetrator of these crimes, and then one of our like hero coroner people that's like starting to raise the alarm that something might be wrong, she falls into this category. She finds out she is the breast cancer gene marker. And she ends up in the hospital, so she's a prime candidate. They're like pretty sure she's gonna be the next victim, and so they're like really trying to like catch this person before this perpetrator can get them. But we also kind of like have an inside look into the perpetrator the whole time as well, and it's really interesting. Like it's real high stakes in the end. It's really good.
Yeah, that sounds super good. I just wrote that down to read Flash by on Audible. Really good, so yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to fantasy.
Okay, well, I'll let you guys take the reins on this one. I'm really not well versed in this at all.
I'm pretty new to the fantasy genre. Yeah. I had been recommended novels by Brandon Sanderson, who's a real big in the fantasy world. He writes a lot of fantasy. I'm on book 3 of the Stormlight Archive, and they're super duper long. Like, it's a real time commitment. I'm listening to them on audiobook, but my mom's reading them at the same time. We started book 3 on the same weekend. Obviously, I'm progressing much quicker through it because I can just throw the audiobook in while I'm doing random stuff, and she has to hold a book in front of her face, which is part of the reason why I don't read paper books so much anymore.
Right. Yeah, same.
But it's just so good. Obviously, it's important in fantasy that the story's good, but like to get to the good part of the story, we need to build that world in a way that isn't gonna make me close the book or turn it off, because
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they just get like too much description.
Yeah.
Fair.
It takes away from the story almost, for sure.
Yeah. Moira, anything?
For fantasy, I really haven't gotten out of like the YA stuff yet, because I just like that's all I like read when I was a teenager, and then I haven't really found a fantasy book yet I've wanted to read that's not one of the other, like a young book for young kids. So
I really recommend Brandon Sanderson has a whole bunch of series, and like some of them, I think the Mistborn series is considered a bit of a lighter read than the Stormlight Archive. I've had that recommended to me to actually start with Brandon Sanderson. Start there.
That looks so cool.
All right, so we're going to talk about nonfiction books. I never used to read nonfiction.
Yeah, it's not one really that I read all the time, but
specifically
it can be.
Now with nonfiction, I really hit those true crime books hard.
Yes, of course.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark is one of the best books, honestly, out there.
Oh, I totally agree. I can't believe.
Or you're not watching the HBO adaptation that's happening right now, just go to your local bookstore and pick that out.
Just do it. Yeah, just do it.
Don't order it off Amazon. We do not order books off Amazon unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Go to your local bookstore.
Of course. Yeah. Jeff Bezos does not need more cash.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, audiobooks go right to Amazon if you have Audible.
Very true. You
Or
got
Kindle.
me there.
But
I've been gone.
Ebooks on Kindle, then yeah. But
yes.
If you're buying an actual physical book, fucking go to your local bookstore.
Absolutely. 100%.
For me, nonfiction has to be, of course, interesting. I don't want to be reading a textbook, of course. That gives me flashbacks to high school. And I also think it has to be, it depends, obviously, who is the narrator, but it has to be, true to the story and not have any bias.
Uh-huh.
I really liked Educated by Tara Westover, the one about, she grows up in this extreme, survivalist mindset Mormon family, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
Definitely recommend.
Moira, any nonfiction books you've enjoyed recently?
Probably my favorite is The Women's History of the World that Catherine got me for Christmas.
Yes, I nailed it.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm still currently reading because it's a textbook in
Size?
book form.
Yeah.
It's huge and it's written like a textbook. So I only read 3 pages at a time. But it's so great. And I'm also with nonfiction books. I like to read basically docudramas in book form where they take a concept of historical things, but then change it or give a what if thing idea. Yeah. I read a book about the Romanov family and their assassination, except it was what if one of them lived and their life after that if they had lived, which I did not put down.
Anastasia type deal.
Yeah.
I'd say if you nonfiction books that aren't super, I don't know, scholarly, but are well sourced, I really would recommend Hamilton by Ron Chernow, which is the biography that the musical Hamilton was based off of. Lin-Manuel Miranda read it over the weekend and was like, I should probably make something with this. And, now we have Hamilton, and I would say I will be honest, I've been reading this book on and off for years, and I'm still only on chapter 7. It's not that it's hard to read. It reads honestly more like a novel than a biography. It's just that the print is really small and hurts my eyes.
Oh.
But I'm going to finish it one day, and then I'm going to lend it to both of you.
Yes, definitely.
All right, and so let's talk about YA series, book series. We're going to talk about YA novels or YA movies that are non-series, because I think that a lot of the YA series that we've read have been adapted.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, yeah. I think we all have some serious experience with this genre, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for our listeners, just a reference, we're all in our late teens, early 20s.
Yes.
So we are freshly out of the YA target audience. I mean, we're still kind of there, but
yeah,
we grew up in the 2010s, really, so we were in that prime time of YA. Twilight and Harry Potter was wrapping up, and Hunger Games happened.
Hunger Games, Divergent, totally.
Yeah, we were teens, early teens, right in the middle of all of that. So we were the YA target.
Yeah,
for sure.
So for me, a good YA series now is really similar to what we were saying about teen dramas, teens that we can relate to. I think one of the best for this, I'm going to actually give 2 examples here because, my first example is one I'm not feeling super proud of right now, but Harry Potter, I really related to Hermione Granger, and I think a lot of girls who were interested in learning and books and stuff really finally had someone that they could look up to.
For sure.
I think I still maintain that somebody else wrote all of the Hermione parts of the Harry Potter series. She is by far the best part of the series.
I agree.
I think now is a good time for us as a podcast, episode 1, to say that we do not agree with J.K. Rowling.
No.
We grew up with the Harry Potter stories. I built a lot of my fangirl identity on my love of Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. And we do not stand with this bullshit.
Yes.
Harry Potter,
LGBTQ.
The story is problematic. Harry Potter, the author, is even more problematic.
Yes.
For sure.
This is a shitstorm, and we're fucking tired of it.
Yes,
we
exactly.
support trans people. We support Black people. We do not support any of the Jewish stereotypes, the Asian stereotypes, any of the other stereotypes that occur in the Harry Potter series. And
yes, all problematic things.
Yeah, we're not dealing with this problematic bullshit, and we are all for elevating people that don't do shit like this.
Yes, exactly. We're an open-minded podcast that loves everyone of any color and size or sexuality of any gender, anyone.
Yeah, this is just bullshit. There's honestly no words. It is all bullshit.
I know, it's just so shocking that someone so beloved, well, formerly beloved by so many, could be so problematic.
Yeah, somebody who wrote something that meant so much to me.
Yes.
We'll definitely be doing some future talking about this. And then my second example would be Percy Jackson. I think Percy Jackson is written with Percy specifically as the narrator. The second series, we rotate narrators, but it's all teenagers narrating, and they all narrate in a different way, but in a way that is fun and funny and, you know, feels like you're being told the story by a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, there's the sarcastic comments and the, oh my god, I cannot believe that this shitty thing is happening to me. What the heck did I do to deserve this?
Exactly.
And I think that that's really important. It's just, like, teens that are being, like, make you relate to them, and then also, like, a big theme in YA is that adults don't always have your best interests at heart, and the powers that be aren't set in stone. And I think that's really important for young audiences.
Yeah, totally. For me, again, one of the biggest things is relatable characters. You spend, like, a whole book / whole series with these characters, and it's not as easy, maybe, to distract from not as relatable characters with pretty scenery or crazy action scenes. So they have to be capturing. You have to be captured, especially by the main character. And then, of course, I wasn't as big on this, obviously, when I was younger. I was while I was, reading these YA books, I was much, much easier to impress. But for me now, I would say it has to have a unique story. There's been, especially since Harry Potter and Hunger Games and all that came out, YA, like, totally exploded, and there's so many books to read in this genre. It has to have a unique story and not be too overdone. I absolutely lived and breathed the Hunger Games books. Just absolutely infatuated.
They are quite good.
I obsessed.
Moira?
I don't even know. I loved most of the YA series when I was growing up, and I think you need to have, like, the characters go on some kind of, like, self-discovery, because that's what you're doing when you're a teenager, is you're figuring out who you are, and I think you have to have that done really well in order to, like, make it capturing to the audience.
Yeah, it's a little jarring if you open a YA series and on page 1, every character knows exactly who they are. Like, all these 12-year-olds have their life figured out at 12.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting here at 20 with no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's jarring. Like, no 12-year-old knows exactly who they are in the world yet.
No 12-year-old knows anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also,
no offense if you're 12.
You're really right about that. Alright, so we are transitioning from YA series to YA movies that are not series, because a lot of the YA books, series that we just talked about, have been adapted into movies, and that's great. We love them.
Yeah.
However.
Yeah, a lot of overlap, for sure. A lot of the same thing.
Yeah, we don't want to overlap too much. So we're going to talk about non-series movies that are YA. Who wants to start us off?
I can start us. I think that kind of the same sort of thing as YA books, even with things that aren't a series. I think there has to be realistic characters, and there has to be, like, realistic conversations between characters. In movies, I feel like sometimes they have to, like, they feel like they have to rush things, because there's only, like, like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get through the story. But there has to be realistic and relatable characters, and also conversations between characters have to be believable. And then also, of course, a lot of diversity. And I really like Perks of Being a Wallflower. I wrote Wildflower in my notes, but it's Perks of Being a Wallflower, I think, does a really good job.
I'll be honest, I forgot that book and that movie existed until you said that, and I loved that book, and I really enjoyed the movie, I'll be honest. Like,
right? Me too. For some of these, just to, like, remind myself of, you know, YA movies and action movies, comedy movies, like all that, I just Googled it and like to see examples that were popular, and yeah, that one came up. I'm like, that was a really good movie.
That was good. Moira?
I think pacing for sure is a big one with these, because like you said, if they're standalone movies, then you have to do a whole story and build a whole character in an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, like, building the characters and making it believable and telling them their whole story, I don't find it enjoyable. Like, they leave it on, like, unfinished without creating another story and doing a second movie or anything.
Right. What do you think?
My answer is pretty similar to Faye's and Moira's, is that getting that character development in a short amount of time. And then, yeah, also the diversity. I'd say the best YA movie that I've watched recently was Love, Simon. I think it's fantastic. I think it should be mandatory viewing. It is so good. I watched that with my mom.
Wow.
I've seen it. Moira and I watched it together once. I think I've seen it 4 times.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, like, it's just amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. If you haven't seen Love, Simon, I mean, I don't want to even talk about it because it's...
Just go watch it immediately.
So good.
Yeah, mandatory viewing for sure.
And then I say that Love, Simon also falls into the next category we're going to talk about, which is rom-coms.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure something that I don't want a whole lot of, but who wants to start us off with this genre?
I love rom-coms. That's basically all I watch.
Wow, okay.
It's so sad, because it's the same movie quite often, but when you watch it, like, even with the little change, I somehow enjoy watching it. If you find a rom-com that has a different storyline and creates a new adventure that, like, isn't repeated constantly, is really cool, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, like similar but unique. Yeah.
Alright, I don't honestly have anything. I think Moira has said plenty about rom-coms there. I don't have anything to add there.
Yeah, the only thing
I just can't stop watching them. Like, even if a rom-com is bad, even if it's that, like, a really repetitive storyline, like, once I've sat down and I've started watching a rom-com, like, I'm there for the hour or 2 hours that the movie is.
Yeah, it's somehow still capturing, for sure. Like, for me, the only thing is that it's not too, like, hokey and it's not too overdone. But even with that, like, it's its own genre. The most hokey rom-coms are entertaining in their very own way.
It is a running joke that every Christmas movie is exactly the same, and it's not an inaccurate statement, but I keep watching them.
Yeah, but they're still successful.
Yeah.
Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is action, and I've broken it down into 2 categories. I've broken it down to superhero action movies and other action movies, just because superheroes are kind of their own thing.
Yeah, I have, like, little to no experience with this. I've only seen one Marvel movie in my whole life, and
which one
like,
made the cut? Which one was the one?
I honestly don't even remember what it was called. I went to see it with... I don't know if you want to bleep that name, but
I'll bleep that name.
it was... Let's look up the year and see what even came out. It had Aquaman in it.
So that would be a DC movie?
Yeah, that's...
okay, that's my first mistake.
That must have been Justice League or...
Yes.
Aquaman.
Or Aquaman.
Justice League sounds correct. That would be the one that I saw. So, clearly, I mean, it didn't make that much of an impact because I didn't really understand. Because
I didn't even have the right
that was my first one and the only one I've ever seen. So, just to say, all that to say, I will let you guys take the reins on this one, for sure.
Alright, Moira, would you like to start? I feel like sometimes we make Moira speak last.
Yeah.
No. I love superhero movies so much. I don't even know why. They became my first action movies that I started to watch. And I like almost the unbelievable aspect to it. especially the fact that characters often don't die fully and they come back to life in these things. It's like, because I don't have to miss those characters for long. That's something that I really enjoy. And Marvel does it a lot, as well as the DC TV shows. And I think that's really cool. I think that's one of my favorite aspects of superhero shows.
Nice.
Yeah. You never know when it's the end, hey?
I think, superhero movies are kind of great. And I think the thing I like the most about the most recent superhero movies is they've really expanded. DC is a little slower than Marvel in this, but they're definitely getting there. I think we're seeing more female superheroes. We're seeing more superheroes of different races. We're seeing superheroes of different sexualities. I think even classic superheroes, like we just had Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales Spider-Man rather than Peter Parker's Spider-Man. I mean, Peter Parker's Spider-Man was still present in the movie, but the movie really centered on the Miles Morales character, who is Latino and African American, so that's great. Sure. It was honestly one of my top 3 Spider-Man movies. My other 2 top Spider-Man movies being the Marvel ones that have come out recently.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've seen a huge success with Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and Black Panther, and I think it's nice that we're seeing less white men.
For sure.
Yes, definitely too many white men in the media.
Yeah.
over the years, for sure.
Yeah, we're finally getting those other superhero movies.
Yeah, and I think I definitely love all those white men superheroes movies.
Of course, classics.
With the obvious exception of The Incredible Hulk, because nobody likes that movie.
Such a fun movie.
It doesn't even have Mark Ruffalo in it, so
no, it's not even.
I skip it when I'm doing a rewatch with MCU.
I don't count it as much. But I'm also so excited for a Black Widow movie because that was my first original female character, and it's been almost 10 years, and she's finally getting a movie, and I'm ready for it.
Of the original Avengers, Black Widow is by far the best.
Absolutely.
And Faith, if you aren't following, Black Widow is a lot like Batman. She doesn't have any magical powers.
Okay.
She's just been trained in martial arts since she was a little kid, and now she's an adult, and she's deadly. Also, she uses her good looks and great hair to spy on bad people. So we enjoy her a lot.
That sounds vaguely familiar. I may have seen one commercial about it or something.
It was supposed to come out in July. Her movie was supposed to.
Yes,
and they delayed it. So
yes, of course, that is one of the movies that has sadly been sidelined by COVID. Yeah. All right, so we are going to talk about comedies.
Okay, super.
Who wants to start?
I can start. I think that kind of similar to comedy in TV, I think it's really important to have clever jokes and to punch up at things that everyone can relate to rather than take the easy jokes.
Yeah, not minorities or physical appearance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make fun of physical things and really easy, make easy jokes.
Yeah.
And also not to do things over and over that have already been done 1,000 times. I think that Pitch Perfect is a great one. I love the characters in that. I love obviously the music too helps. Yeah. And Emperor's New Groove is it's so not for my demographic, but when I was young, I loved that. And also Emperor's New School was the TV show. I just loved it. And Kronk is such a good character. Oh my gosh. And Yzma is just so good. It's something that me as a person, quote unquote, shouldn't like, but I just love it and it appeals to me so much, and it really shows how well made it is.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So for me, comedy movies aren't really something I usually pick to watch myself. I believe when we recorded this first time, I made a comment that I don't usually love Seth Rogen style comedy movies where there's a lot of actors. In the last couple days, in my household, we've watched Neighbors 1 and Neighbors 2. which stars both Seth Rogen and Zac Efron.
Yeah.
How's that?
And I will say, first one, definitely a lot of dick jokes, but the second one, they really cut back on the dick jokes. And yeah, as much as I don't usually like crude or sexual comedy, every once in a while,
yeah,
it's okay to indulge in a little bit of crude humor. It's usually not for me, but I think small doses, it can be funny.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I'm definitely with you guys. Like, as soon as you're making fun of someone for like their weight or like some other thing that they don't have a lot of control over, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just not funny. It's
just not.
It's just simply not funny.
Yeah. Who hasn't talked, Moira?
Moira?
Yeah, you basically covered everything that I had to say about the comedies. Just having, like, not making fun of other people for things completely beyond their control.
Yeah, just do good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip us over the murder, mystery, thriller, whodunit movie category because we already talked about books that fell into that category.
Yeah, and I think also
the points we made are gonna be.
No, you're right. Books.
Yeah, I think that the topics that were that we liked about them are gonna transfer to movies.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna move us to biopics.
Okay.
Which are very similar to docudramas. They're movies that are based on real events, but they're fictionalized. The two big ones that most people know are both musical ones. So the Queen one is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is one of my favorite movies. And the other one is the Elton John one.
Rocket Man?
Yes, that's it. That's the title I'm looking for.
I don't know why I know that, but I do.
Yeah. So those are the two big ones. I have not seen Rocket Man, but I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I think this was a big piece of my own personal Queen revival, and I think that same thing happened with others. And I think the great thing about biopics, the thing that makes a good biopic, is the casting.
Of course,
casting Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury was just a fantastic choice. He did a great job.
Yeah, and he's such an incredible actor in anything that he does.
Yeah, I've really, I don't think I really know who he was, but I've seen him in a few other things since then. I mean, stuff he was in before that as well that I just didn't know who he was. And he's honestly super fantastic in everything. But I think that was a big part of the success, and then obviously the music choice was huge there. We're going to talk about musicals in a bit.
Yes, of course. Moira, what do you think?
I honestly haven't watched a lot of them, I think, but sticking to the person and creating a basis for who that person is, and then even if you dramatize it, you need to stick to as many of the facts as possible so that it doesn't change how people view those, like, actual people that have happened.
Right.
In the past.
Yeah, sticking to the story is important.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that, of course, like, casting is such a big thing. I think it's it can kind of make or break it. I think that also, I think that it has to have a really clear storyline and not just be kind of pointless. I recently watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood about Mr. Rogers, and it was great. Tom Hanks did a fantastic job, but it didn't really have a plot. It was just kind of a few events, but it didn't have, a climax, an ending, a beginning. A really good one, I think, is The Theory of Everything, which is about Stephen Hawking's life. With, what's his name? Eddie
Redmayne?
Redmayne. He is cast as Stephen Hawking, and he does such a great job. He's so good
in everything he does.
Of course.
I don't know if this is a biopic, but I just want to redeem Tom Hanks because I don't know about you guys, but I love Tom Hanks.
Of course, yes.
So much.
A treasure. It's not really so much of a biopic, but it kind of is. It's his new movie that's out, Greyhound, I believe it's called.
Yes, my dad says that's really good.
We watched it here a week or two ago. And it's, if you haven't seen it, it's about Tom Hanks' character is a captain on a destroyer ship during the Second World War. And they are trying to cross the stretch of the Atlantic that is right in the middle of the Atlantic, so it is too far away from North America or Europe for there to be air coverage, so they cannot refuel. They don't have any air cover for U-boats. The purpose of the destroyers is to protect the convoy of ships from U-boats and get everyone across, and it takes about 2 to 3 days, I believe. So the whole movie happens in that 48-hour period where they're not covered. And it is fantastic. It is so good. I believe it is based off of a compilation of real life people.
Yeah,
real life
that's
stories.
crazy.
But it was just really good, and I just wanted, and it obviously takes place in a 2-day period, so there is a we're leaving for this voyage, and then we are arriving at the other side.
Yeah, there is a point to the whole thing. Yeah. He does a beautiful job as Mr. Rogers. Just the whole, the writing of it could have been a little bit better.
It wasn't structured,
Yeah, exactly.
Super great. Let's transfer into actual documentaries. So that's not fictionalized in any way, just, there's some people that tell us what happened, maybe some bad reenactments, maybe not, depending on the documentary. Usually there's some good B-roll footage, some skylines. What makes a good documentary?
I think that lower thirds, for sure. Beat me over the head with who everyone is at every point.
We need those reminders every time someone's on screen.
Yes.
We don't care how many times you've been on screen before. Give us a lower third. I've forgotten who you are and what your credentials are.
Exactly. There's too many people for a viewer to reasonably remember and care about each person and remember exactly what their credentials are. So that's a big thing. And also, of course, reenactments. They can't take away from the actual events that happened. I don't crazy hokey reenactments can be charming in their own way, but if a documentary is gonna really have a strong emotional impact, I think that it takes away too much. There was a documentary or was it docuseries that TCO recently did where there were children. Was it McMillions? Where there were children reenacting.
That was the baseball one, I believe, or the. Hang on, I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, and they talk about how much that sticks out to them because it makes them pay attention to what's happening and the ridiculousness of what's happening. But it's unique enough.
They liked it, yeah.
Yeah, it's unique and it's funny that it doesn't distract away from the actual story. It's an actual good addition to the documentary or docuseries, whichever it was. Screwball?
It was Screwball. The baseball doping scandal documentary.
Okay, so that's dumb of me then. It wasn't actually recently. I just listened to it recently, going back through all their old episodes.
I believe that was episode 108. I believe episode 114, Cocaine Cowboys, was the same director, and they were quite disappointed, after having this brilliant thing with the kids.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that, so if that's your documentary, apologies if you're not the same guy.
Yeah, sorry about that, but
it's been a while. But yeah, Screwball was a really good documentary for that. I think that was such an interesting choice.
Absolutely genius.
Moira, do you have anything to say about documentaries? Things that make a documentary good?
I have honestly not watched a lot of documentaries, but with the credentials, I need the credentials to be something related to what they're talking about. Because I took a class where we analyzed if they're talking about what they would have studied, and most of the time it was close but not quite what they would have studied for the past 8 years to know about what they're talking about. It's just close enough that they can get someone to stand up and talk about it, and they have the PhD or master's degree beside it, even though it's not really their area of expertise.
Oh, okay.
And so you need the credentials for actually what's happening and what you're talking about, and not just close enough that you can pretend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
kind of ruined documentaries for me, though.
Yeah, I guess.
I can't remember the exact. I wanted to make a really good joke here, guys.
Oh no.
Where it was going to combine Faith's need for lower thirds and Moira's need for people's credentials to be good, and bring up that Beware the Slenderman documentary where the guy has a PhD in shit you read on the internet. I forget what his actual official title was.
Well, just bringing it up is great.
Did he had a PhD in like folklore or like online something? Anyway, he was literally a PhD of shit that you read on the internet.
Yeah, like online.
I love that.
I'm bothered. I can't remember.
Hang on,
either,
I'm gonna find it. I just
genius.
needed to Google because it was
so
hilarious.
Good. Of online, folklore, online creepypasta. Is that the word for like?
I think he was a digital folklorist or something like that.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. Folklorist.
But basically, both those things are good and important, and I totally agree with both of you there. And I don't think I have anything much to add.
Okay, super.
Other than just keep. Like, a good documentary keeps the pace moving and tells me what I need to know without having too much empty filler that I don't need. Like, if you can do it in 2 episodes, don't do it in 4.
Yes, that's another thing TCO talks about a lot, you know? Like,
there's so many things. Like, this could have been a 20-minute documentary and it was 2 hours.
Like, The Tiger King probably could have been a documentary rather than a docuseries.
They're covering the I'll Be Gone in the Dark on HBO right now, and I've noticed in their Facebook group some people have been saying that they find it really slow.
Okay.
That's not the case. I don't find that to be an issue in that particular documentary at all. The Staircase, on the other hand, the 13th episode of The Staircase. I never got past episode 4. I let other people do podcasts and tell me what happened because I could not get through it. It was good. It was interesting. I'm so interested. I wish I knew for sure one way or the other how that case went, but I can't watch it.
No, I know. That was one of the first docu-series that I ever tried, and for an entry thing to try and put myself through, it was rough. It's really rough.
We watched the first few episodes together, and I literally fell asleep on your couch midway through.
Yes, you absolutely did.
I mean, I had come from a work that I started at 7 a.m., and then it was already 11 by that point.
But still.
Yeah, still. Usually I would stay awake for something.
She still puts you to sleep.
We need to keep this episode moving. So we're going to transition right to podcasts because we just mentioned them, a whole bunch of different ones.
Yes.
Documentary section.
Do you want to start us off about that?
I think the most important thing is just a charismatic host or hosts. I mean, we're going to do our best to be the best podcast host that we can be.
Hopefully.
And, hopefully we appeal to you. I'd say if there's multiple hosts, then chemistry, or if it's one host with a lot of guests, then that host has the energy and the structure to keep the episodes moving. I think Potterless is a great podcast. I recommend it to literally everybody. And Mike has a different guest every week usually. He's had a lot of repeat guests, but he has a lot of guests, and he manages to be funny and personable with all of them, and he does his thing in a way that's fun and funny, and I love that podcast.
Yes, for sure.
It's such a good podcast.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for me, humor is a big thing, depending on your... Well, I was going to say depending on your topic matter, but I think you can inject humor into anything. I think depending on your style of podcast is really what I meant. But I think humor is a really important thing for me as a listener, and then also consistency and structure in episodes. For a listener anyways, I like knowing, okay, this is the start, this is their intro music, and okay, we're almost done because they're talking about this. TCO, obviously, true crime obsessed with Gillian Pensavalle and Patrick Hines is so good. Probably my favorite ever. They're so good at what they do. I also really like the Jen and Julian podcast, My Favorite Murder, and Do You Need a Ride, also with Karen Kilgariff from My Favorite Murder. All such good podcasts. There's so many. That's probably my favorite form of media right now.
I could listen to Karen Kilgariff go through the Starbucks drive-thru and get recognized every day.
Oh, every day, of course.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like humor in particular isn't super important. I mean, I listen to like a variety of podcasts. Some of them are funny, some of them aren't. Like I listen to a podcast where they cover wrongful convictions and they're lawyers. They talk about all the legal issues and stuff like that, and like, there's no room there to be funny. But I think just like they're lawyers, but they explain things in ways like they understand their audience isn't lawyers.
Yes, for sure.
And so they explain each of these, like, different lawyer terms in ways that the average person can understand. I mean, I might as well just say I'm talking about Undisclosed. It's fantastic. I highly recommend. They recently got a guy out of prison after 20 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Editing KJ will be adding in some other stats from Undisclosed because I think we need to elevate that ship, but they've had a couple of new trials ordered. They've had this complete conviction. Dennis Perry is out free. They're still working on a bunch. They've covered a good number of cases, and they've had a lot of movement on a bunch of them. So
yeah, that's amazing.
I will add in those actual numbers when I'm editing. Alright, so this is Editing KJ, and I'm just here to put in those Undisclosed updates. So, as of July 18th, 2020, Undisclosed has covered 22 cases. They've had 8 exonerations, 2 stays of execution, 1 commutation, and 1 grant of parole. So that's pretty good. They're doing some great work. I really recommend that podcast. Moira, you're pretty new to podcasts, but tell us what you think makes a good one.
I honestly don't think I've listened to enough podcasts to have an opinion yet.
Do you have any favorites?
Just learning.
Yeah, list us awesome faves. Free plugs for anyone that we've mentioned so far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Literally just Potterless is the one that I've been listening to consistently. I don't remember the name for the Veronica Mars one.
It's Veronica Mars Investigations. It's so fun and funny. I want to make a podcast like theirs about other shows. If I could just like take their format and do that with other shows, I mean, I'll podcast forever.
Those 2 are the ones that I've been listening to, and I really, really enjoy them so far.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's talk about musicals.
Okay, Moira, do you want to start us off with that one?
Oh my goodness. For musicals, I think one thing that I've just been like, I saw on the internet a post about how you should try and keep musicals consistent with how the music becomes a thing. So either they're on stage and they're practicing a song and that they're singing because they're a part of a band or a musical, or you just randomly break out into song and it's either one or the other. And I'm realizing that a lot of musicals don't have a consistent, they just switch back and forth between the 2. And it's actually, it's been bothering me for the past couple days because I'm like, where's the consistency? But I also really like that as well. Some of my favorite musicals.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, all of the Riverdale episodes would fall, all the 3 existing musical episodes from Riverdale fall in that category, as do all 3 High School Musical movies.
High School Musical was the one with the example that I saw, and I was like, wait.
Yeah, High School Musical is what I thought of as soon as you said that.
Yeah, they are
but
half
a lot of other
for
musicals
the school musical and half just breaking out a song for no reason.
But I think if you pick a consistent one, it would be very cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
like I'd say, we're gonna do a whole episode on musical episodes in the very near future. It's gonna be one of our early episodes for sure. Like I would just say, like Grey's Anatomy would be like an example of one that picks a reason. There's a reason everyone's saying,
and sticks to it for sure.
Consistent, and when that reason no longer exists, they stop saying. It's a one and done this episode and never again.
Yeah, for me, I think there have to be, of course, like great songs. I love when musical songs are catchy, when all of them, if possible, are catchy and tell a great story. And of course, like capture my emotions, make me feel things, good or bad, hopefully both. I love Beauty and the Beast, obviously like my favorite Disney movie / Disney princess. And then also Into the Woods. I love Into the Woods and how they do that and how it's comedy as well as musical, and all the songs are also great.
My musical answer is going to be a 2-part. So for musicals that are primarily in-person theater, you just have a soundtrack, you don't have a video component, then I think a lot of the story needs to be in the music, or it needs to be enough of the music so that you can figure out the storyline. I think Hamilton does a great job of that. The soundtrack is about 10 minutes shorter than the whole musical as a whole. So, it's all in there. You can really follow the story just by listening to the soundtrack. With a movie musical or a musical that's been adapted for a film, it's not such a big deal because you have that film component to tell the story. And in both both those cases, then like having music be catchy,
right,
is important. I think Pitch Perfect did a great job at that. Everybody loves the riff-offs and everything. I think I don't know anyone who was like, I hate Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Even my parents love Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
And they're not musical people.
Yeah, Anna Kendrick.
Like Hamilton, but they like Pitch Perfect.
They don't like Hamilton?
No, I mean they've only seen they only have the soundtrack, and it's just me blasting the soundtrack around her.
Oh, right.
They don't have the film context yet.
Fair.
Yeah, so our last big category is music.
Category, yeah. We're gonna talk about songs first. What makes a good song?
Okay, well, for me, the biggest thing is lyrics. I find a lot of newer pop songs kind of don't hit me the same as some of, Taylor Swift's older / now newer stuff. And Disney songs that I hold near and dear, once I get into a song, I will listen to it for years. My sister Emily always makes fun of me for not having a up-to-date music taste, and that's just because I get so connected with songs and want to listen to them over and over. My favorite song of all time, before Folklore, obviously, now that is just holds a totally blessed place in my heart right now, but All Too Well by Taylor Swift from the Red album, it just hits me so close to my heart and is so important to me. I love that song. So well written. Oh, I wish she would release the full 8-minute version.
Yeah, I'm holding out hope forever for that 8-minute version to surface somewhere on the internet.
Yeah. maybe someday.
Moira, would you like to go next?
I definitely agree with the lyrics part for sure. I love when a song just gets me in the lyric things where I'm like, oh my goodness, that author was just incredible. I just love that. But also, I'm really into upbeat, catchy songs. Most of the time. I don't know, that's just something that I look for in a song, is the ones that I end up listening to more, even though slower songs, some days you need those, for sure.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. But I'm definitely looking for an upbeat song.
I can't even begin to describe to the listeners what my music taste is. This is a question I ask all the time. What kind of music I like, and I never know how to answer. So for me, I'm a very inwardly emotional person. I'm not an outwardly emotional person. But music is one of the few things that makes me emotional. Outwardly emotional. If I'm watching TV, I pretty much have to watch an episode where an actor, an actual actor has died, and so their character is being killed off. That's one of the few things that has consistently brought me to tears. But music gives me those full body chills all the time. I really, it really is a combination of good lyrics and lyrics I connect with, and then overall sound. Recently, I've really been using the Shazam app, and I've been Shazamming a lot of music that's used in TVs. A lot of TV shows use a lot of more indie songs, or they use covers of songs. Grey's Anatomy and Heartland are two that really do this well. Heartland uses a lot of Canadian music, which is nice. BT Dubs, in case we haven't mentioned this, we're Canadian.
Oh yes, also
this
that.
This is an Ontario-based podcast. We're still trying not to get COVID, but if we do, we're not going to go bankrupt, so that's nice.
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Stay home.
Stay home and wear a mask.
I can't pick a favorite song. It's just not something I can do. It will change again so quickly.
Immediately.
But yeah, I think the reason I connect so much with songs that are used in television is because they're usually used to build emotion for the scene. Mm-hmm. And so I connect with that emotional connection in the scene. So I think
totally.
That helps me connect emotionally. I'm a little a little difficulty for me. All right, so we're gonna move on to what's a good album.
Okay.
I'm gonna go first because
I'm
going first in a while.
Sure, go ahead.
To me, what makes a good album is there's some sort of story. I think that recently, again, we are recording this on July 26th, so on the 17th, Gaslighter by the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, came out. And that album, most of the songs are about Natalie Maines' recent divorce from her husband, and I think the whole album is really put together well. It tells a story. I really connect with it. Even though a lot of the songs sound really different from one another, they're still connected by that common thread, and I think that really brings the album together.
Such a good album. I love it.
It's a great album. I mean, I could talk about any of Taylor Swift's albums and say similar things.
Of course.
We've talked so much about Taylor Swift, and I think it's time to elevate some other people. Like, amazing. I mean, top-selling female group of all time.
Oh, iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that an album has to be cohesive, whether it's with sound or story or lyrics. I think that it has to all relate to each other and, of course, tell a story, like you said. And I like it when the songs are purposeful in a way of, again, telling a story and where they're placed on an album. I really like Billie Eilish's album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The way that it starts and flows into the album, you listen to it from beginning to end and it all ties together, and the last song has a little piece relating back to each one of the other songs. And I think it's just such a great piece of artistry. It's amazing how young she is. So, obviously, and then, like you said, of course, all the Taylor Swift albums, especially, I think, 1989, just hits all those boxes for me, and of course, we're raving about Folklore these days.
Yeah, I think Folklore, I believe we said this in our upcoming segment where we reacted to Folklore with each other for the first time. Folklore, really, like, the songs are all really similar sounds.
Yeah.
Compared to basically any of our previous albums. I mean, it's the most cohesive sounding.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of, like, I'm going to use Speak Now as an example. Speak Now had Better Than Revenge, and it also had Last Kiss on it. Like, those songs sound so differently. Absolutely. Whereas Folklore really has a cohesive sound.
Yeah, exactly. You could pick two songs from Folklore, and if someone didn't know they were from the same album, they could probably guess that they were.
And like if you hit shuffle, I mean, it's still too early for me to be hitting shuffle on Folklore. I'm still listening.
Same.
But if you did hit shuffle, you're not going to get that jarring experience of like a massive genre change.
Yeah, totally. Sure. Yeah.
Or,
what do you think, really Moira?
Different sound.
Yeah, I'm basically just what you guys have covered, just a theme or like a genre like that stays cohesive is very important, and I think it's very cool when artists have those.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, are we ready to move on to playlists?
Yeah, for sure. I'm ready.
All right, I guess I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna say something and then I'm gonna immediately contradict myself. And
okay.
So I think for me, like a good playlist is cohesive, and whether it's same as we were talking about with albums, same sound or same storyline. Like you like listen to like breakup songs, or you listen to like dance songs, or you listen to songs that are more upbeat and then songs that are more slow, and like you don't mix them too much in your specific playlist. Something that the listeners are about to know about me is that I, every time I see a new song that I like, I add it into one playlist. And I checked that playlist today. It has 894 songs on it.
Oh my god.
What?
It is just about every song I've ever remotely liked. I mean, there's definitely songs on there that I like that aren't in there because they just never got there. But yeah, every time I Shazam a song, it goes in there. it's just, it's 894 songs as of July 26th, 2020. It's only growing. Editing KJ back, and it's been a while, and this playlist has now surpassed 918 songs. But I make smaller playlists, and I follow like smaller playlists that are more one genre or one type of song.
Right. Yeah, I agree. For me, I am more one that whenever I like a song, I add it to my liked songs, and then if I want to just listen to songs that I enjoy, I just go in there and hit shuffle or pick one. And as far as playlists go, I either like to follow a lot of playlists that are all one artist, like one artist's every single song they've ever released.
Yeah, like one of like this is...
Yes, exactly. Alex Benjamin, Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, all that. Great stuff. And of course, I really enjoy playlists such as, car songs, songs that I like to sing in the car, songs for in the shower, all that kind of stuff are
my songs I like to sing in the shower playlist, like the one that's made by Spotify, is so good.
Yes, and I also wake up to either Only the Young by Taylor Swift, always, or the morning playlist by Spotify. So that's my playlist jam for sure.
Moira, playlist?
Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't have playlists.
Any?
No.
Wow.
I have like my downloaded music that I've paid for that is basically just songs from musicals, like it's Hamilton, Newsies, and The Greatest Showman, and I just hit shuffle and get what I get.
Oh my God, you combine them?
Yeah, it's a trip. But then like I listen to a lot of YouTube because I don't have Spotify or Apple Music. So I just whatever YouTube playlist makes me, it's what happens. Sometimes I get a song from Descendants, and then I get a country song, and then I get a rap song, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's songs that I listen
shuffle
to.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
When I listen to Hamilton, I still listen to the full 2 hours and 34 minutes. Back, like
really.
Yeah,
Alexander Hamilton to Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. Yeah, I one to the other. It's just sometimes I only make it to like nonstop, but I don't shuffle it, and I definitely don't mix it with any other musicals. I enjoy my musicals in isolation.
Yeah, just too sacred for sure.
I mean, we're probably gonna have episodes that are just with musicals, but I really want to plug a musical before we
sure, of course,
wrapping up this episode. I really think everyone needs to support the Lightning Thief musical based on the Percy Jackson books. It is so fun. And those movies are famous for being terrible, and hopefully we are gonna get that Disney series mentioned earlier in the future. But in the meantime, we have a Broadway show. And we have the playlist from it, and the Broadway show did a better job at adapting the first book than the movie did. So,
absolutely,
wow!
Please go and enjoy. If you're a Percy Jackson fan, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, nice plug for sure. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
We want to do some segments at the end of every show. Obviously, this isn't like the most regularly structured episode that we're gonna do.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because, usually we're going to talk about more specific topics than this.
Yes, this is more like an intro to what we enjoy and what we like.
Yeah, and obviously, we're probably going to have to do another episode of these down the road for all of the different genres and categories that we haven't talked about. Please hit us up on our social media to let us know different genres. We didn't even talk about historical fiction shows or anything like that. There's already so many more we could talk about, but we're running out of time here.
For sure, we're way past time.
So the 3 segments that we want to do, depending on whether or not they fit for an episode, are Love It or Lose It, which is a segment where we each pick one thing that we absolutely love about something, and then one thing we'd rather have changed. The randomized rankings, which is where we're going to randomly select 5 characters who are kind of like main-ish characters, and we're going to rank them based on our own personal criteria. There's going to be no set criteria for these rankings. We're just going to be given 5 characters, and we're all going to have to rank them.
Yeah. And then the last one is I would name my kid, which is we take whatever we were talking about, whether it's a movie or a TV series, and then just literally just pick a baby name that we think would be good for naming a baby. Like today we talked about, I talked about Beauty and the Beast and Grays, so I would name my kid Amelia, and I'd name my kid Belle.
Moira, do you have a literary name that you're super into?
Yeah, anything from today, anyways?
I literally keep such a list. I keep a list of potential future baby names on my phone, and a lot of them are based on movies. And
that's so something you would do, for sure.
I have one too, and I'm currently looking it up based on...
Yeah, we'll give you a minute.
Yeah, what about you? Do you have any on hand?
I have a whole lot. I think my top one is for a girl, Persephone, like the Greek goddess. And then for a nickname, Percy, which is a double nickname because not only is it a cute nickname for Persephone, it's also the main character in Percy Jackson, which is also about mythology. So it's a real good like double one.
Eliza is actually one of my favorite things from Hamilton. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's a good one. All of the Elizabeth nicknames are great.
My top name for what I want to name my child is Kiala, and it's after Kiala Settle, who was in The Greatest Showman.
Aw, that's just a beautiful
name.
She's
fantastic in The Greatest Showman.
So good. And like I saw her name and I'm like, I want to name my child that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about The Greatest Showman in the episode about the dangers of fictionalizing real people.
Yes,
absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Because, P.T. Barnum and everything. However, I think we can all agree that The Greatest Showman was a great movie musical.
Oh, amazing.
Absolutely.
All right, so we are going to wrap this episode up.
Yeah, so, awesome. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, episode 1 in the books.
Yeah, finally.
Thank you for sticking out all the way to the end. I know this was a long journey for episode 1.
Yes, for sure. But hopefully you got to know, who each of us are and what we like.
We tried not to talk about too much about things we didn't like, but, I'm sure you got some of that in there, too.
Of course. I mean, we're 3 best friends. Like, we're gonna dish about something. For sure.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to tell us how much you agree with us or how much you very strongly disagree with us, you can find the podcast at Series of Opinions Pod on Instagram and Tumblr, and then at Pod of Opinion on Twitter. Or send us an email at seriesofopinionspod@gmail.com. And you can find me at Life Messes of KJ, all one word, on everything.
Yeah, the live tweeting, I have the unbiased opinion that it is incredible and definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Worth the scroll back. So I am
had to turn my notifications off throughout the years as I have watched things that she has not yet seen or she has been behind.
Yes, spoiler central for sure.
Yeah,
be warned.
Central on my Twitter is spoilers for just about everything that I'm watching. So
you can find me at Miss Faith Ann across pretty much everything, and for all the art things, you can find me at Faith Ann Art.
You can find me at Moira_Frisk on pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's us.
Yeah, find us, follow us, let us know what you think.
What you want us to cover in the future, what you liked about what we said.
We're checking our social media every day. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think. We want to hear what you guys want us to cover. We just want to know other people are caring. We're not shouting into the void.
Yes, for sure. Anybody out there.
All right, and that is going to wrap up this episode. Join us next week for the next episode. This episode was edited by me, produced and written by all 3 of us. And our logo is by Faith Ebert. You can find her at Faith Ann Art. And we'll see you back next week.
Bye!